Good evening. This is Vishnu and I am back with another episode of Coding Talks. Coding Talks, in each week we will discuss some of the programming topics, and lastly a few weeks we are discussing about some of the cloud concepts. Last week we discussed on Google Cloud Services, its different services that are offered. And today in this session we will be looking into Azure Data Factory, which is one of the data integration service that is provided by Azure. So these are the days of big data. We are dealing with a lot of data. Applications are dealing with a lot of data in forms of its variety, huge variety of data, and the volume and the velocity of the data is also too much high. It's coming at a rapid pace, and the applications are dealing with a massive amount of data. Such kind of data are called the big data, and to process these kinds of data in a massive scale, some form of mechanism needs to be in place. In the last session, I have covered about NoSQL, which is an offering for processing such kind of highly scalable data. And there is another service, different services out there. So there is another service which helps in making rich insights out of those data. That is called the Azure Data Factory. So many of the companies out these days or organizations are trying to find out how much valuable insights that they can arrive from their different sources of data. So they have data in lots of places, like in their web application. Then they have some social media or like a Facebook or Twitter account, and many customers are actually interacting or contributing their reviews or their feedbacks through these social medias. They may have a CRM system in place. In addition to this, they have different applications that will be running to meet the requirements of their organization, and these different applications may generate a huge variety of logs. So these are rich sources of information, but till recent years, these valuable informations were not utilizing that much properly because of the fact that such specialized mechanisms were not there in place. Today, the cloud era, these kind of processing systems and storage for storing these scalable data are considered very cheap, and many specialized mechanisms has evolved. So such one kind of offering is the data factory, which we are going to discuss in this session. So this is basically simple to understand. Azure Data Factory, or in short we call this as ADF, is a kind of a cloud-based data integration service that allows you to wrap different data sources. So the data sources can be from your social media accounts, it can be from your application logs, it can be from your production websites data. Different areas you can consider as sources to this data factory, and you can automate the data movement and you can transform the data. Why we are transforming the data is to produce rich insights from these data. So you can understand from all these things how much social media interaction is actually going to happen when you launch a new product, or how many favorable responses are you getting from a newly launched product, how much negative feedbacks are actually people raising. So rich informations you can derive from these different datas, provided if you integrate them properly and provided if you transform the data properly in such a way that it can reach good conclusions about how your different entities are performing related to your organization. So that is what the main aim of these services like the data factory. So next we will look into on another concept called the, one second. So if you look into the Azure Data Factory documentation, you can view an interesting case study of an organization called Milliman, which is a leading global provider of the actuarial products and services that is in the insurance industry. So they are rapidly growing, and they earlier had some analytics in place, but when the analytics grow more and more sophisticated, there evolved a need for a high performance computing to produce the scenarios. So different situations arise that, and they have used a cloud-based system that is powered by Microsoft Azure, and that helped them to develop products that goes faster time to market. Then they have reduced cost, as well as they have increased scalability, more flexibility and creativity. In this way, different organizations across the world. So if you look into the Azure Data Factory documentation, you can view how the Xbox has used analytics to empower their different application developments and to arrive at rich conclusions or insights from these different kinds of data or the different kinds of gaming data that they are dealing with. So similar way, different organizations are dealing with different kinds of data, and if you are part of an organization and that have a rich set of data that is there in different places like the logs, websites, then the CRM systems, or in the actual application database, you can also take advantage of this integration system like Azure Data Factory, so that you can wire up these different data sources, and we can pull all the data into the Azure Data Factory. So this data factory or Azure Data Factory is a kind of a factory. You can imagine that to be a resemblance of a factory. In an actual factory, what happens is there may be different units that are producing different things, and finally that all will be integrated into an actual product. So that same concept is what we are dealing here in Azure Data Factory service as well. We can have different data sets which have different sources. So these sources can be coming from your social media or your application log or from different places. You can do some of the actual work like these factories do, like the actual transformation of data, and then finally you can transform the data to arrive rich conclusions, and you can integrate that into some kind of AI systems to produce rich insights. And then finally you can store the actual data in some warehouse or database, so that the relevant parties or those who are interested in these valuable insights can take advantage upon. So that is what this Azure Data Factory service is mainly about. Now let's look into some of the things that are supported by ADF or the Azure Data Factory. So this main thing that these kind of services do is transformation of data. So we have some kind of unclean data that we may be inputting from different sources, and we include all that data in our application inside this Azure Data Factory. So we need to do some form of transformation. So different transformations are out there. Two important categories of the transformations are ETL and ELT. So ETL means we first extract data from these different sources, then we transform that, and then we load that particular final data in some warehouse or some actual location, data storage locations like a data lake or data blob storage or SQL server or somewhere. And another thing is like ELT, where we first extract the data, then we load the data in some stored mechanism, and these stored mechanisms has the capability to actually transform the data. So here an on-the-fly changing queries is actually happening, and this brings more advanced analytics. So two kinds of transformations can be possible in Azure Data Factory, that is the ETL and the ELT. So you can understand more about these two different types. What all are the different mechanisms that inside the Azure Data Factory that can support these things. You can check out the documentation. Basically, ETL is like we collect the data through different pipelines. So we pull the data through different connectors, and then we load that data in actual data set. Then we do some kind of transformation using the activities inside the Azure Data Factory, and finally we store the data. So that is how the ETL mode working. So here first we load, then we do transformation, and then we load the data. Load the data to some kind of store. Store can be either the Azure Blob Storage, or some form of data warehouse, or the Azure SQL Server. Another way is called ELT, where you first extract the data from these different kinds of inputs, like the one which we discussed just earlier. Then we actually load the data in some kind of store like Azure Synapse Analytics or SQL Server. Then that system must be capable of actually transforming the data. So you can transform the data using some connectors, and then that is called the ELT. So these two things, if you understand, it will be much helpful. Then Azure is a kind of a platform where there are involved around 100 plus services out there. Coming to the big data scenarios and the integration related services also, there are quite a lot of things. So this Azure Data Factory is not the only thing that is available in Azure. So similar like other services are also there. So if you want to migrate some existing data, you can use the data migration assistant or data migration systems, which can do these migrations, but that is basically considered as an on-time migration kind of process. Similarly, you can use the file migrations like the Azure Data Box or Azure File Sync, which can also do the migration from one particular source to somewhere else, like the Azure Blob Storage or Azure SQL Server or Azure Synapse Analytics, which is a warehouse scenarios. So these kind of services like the data migration services or the file migration services like a data box or Azure File Sync will definitely help you to move data from one place to another. And if it is in a category of an on-time process, those would be enough. And similarly for streaming, there are different other services like the stream analytics is there. So these all can used independently for such purposes. So you can check out those services out as well. The good thing about the Azure Data Factory is that it can automate some of these things, and it can do periodic data loads and transformations. Similar to the example which we discussed at the beginning of this session, the organizations may be interested to know how the social media is performing or the actual users are using the system when a particular product is launched. So different integrations should be happening, should be there, and that integration system should always load the data in real time so that they can analyze these things in place. So a kind of a periodic data loads and transformations are required in such cases. So Azure Data Factory is particularly suitable for such kind of activities. So again, if it is an on-time process, then you can stick on with some other kind of services like Data Migration Assistant, DMA, or data migration systems like DMS, or file migration like Azure Databox or Azure File Sync. But if these process, these periodic load, these data loading and its transformation, its cleanup and arriving the insights out of this data is to be happened at periodically, then some service like Azure Data Factory, which can help you in doing that task, especially the automating of task. And those who are familiar with the SQL Server or the on-premise version of SQL Server, you may be aware of the SSIS. So similar concept you can also integrate with the ADF things. And the one advantage of using ADF is that you can also call the SSIS or the SQL packages from inside the ADF. So it can be kind of an event-based trigger, and it can periodically call these SSIS packages and can do the work. So when thinking about Azure Data Factory, it's a bit advanced than that of SSIS, but SSIS also has its own place there. So we can now look particularly into Azure Data Factory, and we can discard all the other things that are not directly connected with Azure Data Factory. Because we are going to understand about Azure Data Factory in particular, we want to arrive at a rich conclusions or insights about our different data that is gathered across different places. In this case, I want to mention one particular scenario I encountered earlier. Like we can have a way by which we can collect the different logs, different data from different places using some other mechanisms like a set of a VM, then some jobs cloud using that Azure classic cloud services where it is running periodically, and it can pull the log from or pull the different data from different areas and can aggregate it and can do some transformations using in our normal SQL Server, or if the data is on a high variety of nature, we can use some data warehouse services like Synapse Analytics, and then we can store the data. Such architecture can also be possible without the help of Azure Data Factory. But Azure Data Factory, the particular advantage is that we can have a dedicated managed serverless service in place which can do all these things, and we can also automate these things as well. So once we create an Azure Data Factory and its related services and pipelines, then we can generate an ARM template which can be used for automating the different environments, and we can in case if you don't want a particular environment, we can shut down that particular environment and we can recreate as necessary as we can like. Azure Data Factory doesn't having a persistent mechanism in place, so it doesn't save any of these data. So we need some external service like on something in Azure or somewhere to actually store the data. So it is kind of an intermediary transformation layer is what this Azure Data Factory is all about. It is connecting the data. Once we provision the Azure Data Factory, we set how to load the data through these different data connections, and then we will load that particular data in place, and then once that data is there, we will do the transformation and we will store the data in some store mechanisms like Azure Data Factory, Azure Data Lake, or Azure Synapse Analytics, or some form of place like Azure Blob Storage or somewhere, or SQL Server even. So the same mechanism you can do without the help of Data Factory, but using a service like a Data Factory will give you more flexibility, because this is a dedicated service particularly for these kind of transformations. And the pricing is charged based on how you actually execute the pipeline. We will come into the different key components of Azure Data Factory soon. So one such component is called the pipeline. Then the data flow. So the charging or the pricing is calculated based on how much pipeline is executed, how much debugging is happening, how much data flow execution is happening. So all these factors affect the pricing. So you can have more flexibility. So in case if you want to do more things, you can have that with the additional performance, and you have to pay only for what you actually use. So it's basically a kind of a serverless model. So you don't need to bother about creating different VMs, different cloud service or jobs for running these data transformations. So everything is there inside the Azure Data Factory itself. The pipeline also is very rich, and it has different activities which we can add. So a very rich set of things are already in place, and there is a marketplace as well. So we can integrate that. So it's basically can think of as a rich set of services, all wrapped inside a kind of a service called Azure Data Factory. And with this particular service, you can arrive at a rich set of conclusions or insights from your actual data. Now we can look into some of the key elements of Azure Data Factory. So this will be the architecture of how Azure Data Factory will looks like. So once you understand these different elements, mainly 6 elements are there, then you can easily start working on the Data Factory. I will be taking a session particularly about this Azure Data Factory on the coming Wednesday, 1st of September, 8 p.m. IST. I am planning that time. In case if there is any change, I will let you know through that meetup group. So you can also subscribe to the meetup group. So the meetup group name is called the Coding Talks Cloud Computing. Every week we will be having different sessions. Those sessions will be a kind of a live sessions on YouTube. So you can watch that when it is streamed, or you can watch that later as well. In addition to that, I have also an YouTube channel called Coding Talks with Vishnu. That is the same name as this podcast. You can also refer my YouTube channel. So it will also have that particular sessions which are happening, and hopefully that will be a live video demo, and that will give you more picture, and you can continue listening this session as well. That is an audio podcast, and you can understand more about the Azure Data Factory. So coming to the Azure Data Factory key elements, there are 6 main components. So these are pipelines, then the activities, triggers, then the integration runtime, data sets, and linked service. These are all very easy to understand. So pipeline is a kind of a logical grouping of activities that we want to do inside Azure Data Factory. So that means that we need to have different activities that needs to be done. For example, on a simple scenario where we have an Azure database in place, we need to copy that data from Azure database to the inside this data factory. So that activity is called a copy activity, and that is one activity. So the next set of things which we want to do inside our data factory is to transform this data. So this transforming this data, we can use different mechanisms like the data flow, which is called another kind of activity. And finally, we need to sync this data or store this data in some place, some targets like Azure Synapse Analytics, which is a data warehouse, or blob storage, or you can have that in different places as well. So that is another activity. So all these different activities you can add inside the pipeline. So because it is added inside a pipeline, it provides a logical grouping of activities to perform an unit of work. So the unit of work in this case means we want to load the data and we want to do the transformation. So this is a basic simple scenario which I just explained. Don't fall into the assumption that Azure Data Factory stops here. When I mentioned about copying data from an Azure SQL server, don't fall into the assumption that that is the only connector that this Azure Data Factory supports. There are a rich set of different connectors out there. When I show the demo, you can understand that. Being this is an audio podcast, if you try that from your own, you can create an Azure Data Factory, and then when you created a pipeline, you can have different activities. So simply add a copy activity, and then you can understand how much rich data sources that it supports. So that is how it is working. Then the next set of thing you need to understand is integration runtime. So integration runtime provides the computing infrastructure of Azure Data Factory. So you can have different kinds of integration runtimes in place. So we will look into that all things. So these are kind of a compute versions that mentions to the Azure Data Factory how that data factory should perform, how its underlying compute infrastructure should work on. So 3 modes are there. 4 modes are there. One is the data flow execution, then the data movement execution, then the dispatch of activities, and SSIS package execution. So you can move the data between the AWS in the different kinds of integrations are there. So it basically covers all the there is a correction that it basically supports different kinds of data flow, data movement, and dispatch of activities, as well as some of the different scenarios like SSIS package execution as well. So by default, it will be able to identify whatever data sets we are connecting when we add a pipeline. Just before I explained about copying a particular activity from inside the pipeline, and we can set the different sources. So once we set the source, it can automatically identify which type of runtime to use. So that is what the integration runtime is all about. By default, it will have a value that can auto identify what sort of runtime it should have. So different sets of runtime in addition to that you can provide, like the Azure integration integrated runtime. So this means you can, if you select this one, you can move the data between the public endpoints like the inside the Azure, or it can be from some other cloud vendors like Amazon Web Services or GCP, or some other services like Salesforce. So from all that public endpoints, you can move the data into the Azure Data Factory. You can transform the data, and finally you can store the data as well. So that is the default one, which is called the Azure Integration Runtime. In addition to that, if you want to have a self-hosted integrated runtime, you can have that as well. Self-hosted integration runtime means that you can have a VM or some kind of compute infrastructure in place or inside your own premise. It need not be inside Azure. You can have that inside an on-premise behind a firewall as well, or inside a virtual network as well. And you can configure the Azure Data Factory to pull the data from such kind of self-hosted integrated areas, and it can pull the data and can do the transformations. So currently, as of recording this podcast, only the 64-bit server Windows is supported on self-hosted integration runtime. Then there is another option inside the integration runtime called the Azure SSIS, which helps you to connect to the SSIS jobs in place. So this is helpful for lift and shift scenarios where you have a set of SSIS jobs or packages in place, and if you want to connect your Azure Data Factory to those SSIS jobs, you can do that, provided if you choose this Azure SSIS runtime. The good thing within this integration runtime is that there is an option called the auto resolve integration, and that is the one which is there by default. So that will automatically select the runtime based on how you define the pipeline. Basically, it will be having that runtime in place in it so that it can automatically connect to all the public endpoints of services within Azure. That is a good thing. And in case if you miss this particular setting, still you are in a safe kind of situation because the auto resolve integration runtime is there by default. So you don't need to worry too much about this integration runtime. You can change that anytime, and by default that is in a safe mode. So once you create an Azure Data Factory, your focus should be on creating pipelines. So inside the pipelines, you can add different activities, and these different activities you can connect to each other like kind of a flow. Like once we copy data from source, we can do the transformations, and then finally we can sync that particular data into some form of storage mechanisms like warehouse or blob storage. So you can define all these activities, you can wrap that inside a pipeline, and you can focus on all those things. And in case if you want to connect those activities to some kind of some variety of endpoints like the Azure SSIS or some kind of self-hosted area, then you need to think about changing the Azure integration runtime compute version as well, so that accordingly it can connect. Even if you don't select that, still the Azure will be able to find out these things. Another type of thing that you need to aware about when it comes to Azure Data Factory, in addition to these pipelines and activities, is the concept of linked services. Linked services are of two types. One particular type of linked service gives instruction on how to connect a particular data set. So data set means it's a definition of how the data source should look like. You can connect your Azure Data Factory. You need to have some data in place. So you need to pull the data from different connectors. There are different connectors out there. One such example is like Azure Blob Storage. You can pull the data from there. Or in case if you want to pull data from Azure SQL Server or some other form of servers, you can have that as well. So different connectors are provided. So every time when you create a data set by adding a kind of a source, it is also creating a linked service behind the scene. So, and another thing is like you can also use these linked services to connect to some external compute resources such as like the Hadoop insights or the Azure function. Linked service, you can simply think of it as like a kind of a connection string in our application, where it is helps the different activities or different components to identify where our data source is and where it want to actually connect when it comes to connecting to an external source. Then these linked services will be automatically created when you create a data set. So the data sets is the thing which mainly we are working on. Data, we are directly dealing our activities with these different kinds of data sets. So these data sets are more about the data structures inside the data stores. So you can consider an example where you are connecting initially for your activity, you need to copy some data from somewhere like the blob storage or SQL database. First you need to define a data set, and to define a data set you can have its source from somewhere. In our case, this will be a blob storage file. So this blob storage can be considered as a kind of a linked service, and inside that a particular file or some kind of folder, you can consider that as a kind of data set. So when we work on activities, we will be working more on the actual data set, and that data set is what we are going to actually use. And even this simple copy activity which we just discussed, I mentioned about copying the data from some kind of source like Azure Blob Storage or Azure SQL Server, wherever you prefer. But this is not just a simple copy of data. If you work with some kind of copy mechanisms, you may be aware that you specify the source and destination and parameters, and it simply copies the data from one location to another. But this activities that is inside the Azure Data Factory, one such activity is called the copy activity, that is also rich in its capabilities. Rich in its capability means that it can do more than just copying. It can do the serialization and deserialization of data, and the source, it can connect to around 83 connectors, more than 83, and more will be added later. So different kinds of data source or data sets can be connected, and you can transform the data also in different formats. It can transform the data to JSON or CSV or whatever way you prefer. You can check out that from inside that copy activity, and it also supports some of the enterprise level features such as the incremental copy. You can pause and resume, as well as the different kinds of access restriction mechanisms also. You can put it into the ACL mechanism also. So this means even this simple copy activity, when Microsoft provided that inside this Azure Data Factory, it has a rich set of capabilities. So we were understanding about a simple concept of copying the data from one source location, do the transformation. Transformation in the sense that in the actual real scenarios, you may be, these transformations means maybe adding a compute column, like if you have a units of items and we want to calculate some something relevant informations, we can have that and store it, and we can do the transformation on it. Or in some cases, if you want to analyze something from these different sets of data that we are inputting, we can do that as well. So all these things can be considered as part of the transformation, and these transformations you can apply inside these different kinds of activities. So once you define all these different sets of activities, that is from the copy, transformation, up to the finally storing the data in some location. Storing is basically termed as syncing. So you can sync the data in some destinations like a blob storage or Azure Data Warehouse. And once everything is in place, you can have the pipeline. You can validate the pipeline, and you can run the pipeline as well. This comes to understanding another important concept called the triggers. So once you define a pipeline, you definitely want to see how it is actually running. So you can simply click on the add trigger button, which is on the top of that particular pipeline, and you can either select simply the run now, which will run the pipeline immediately. This is useful for debugging scenarios, or you can schedule a trigger at a later point of time. You can have event-based trigger also, but as of recording this session, only the Azure Blob-based event trigger is currently as of now. Maybe Microsoft will add more kind of triggers at later point of time. Now you can add a time series or a scheduled based triggers in place, or you can have a blob storage based trigger where when you add some files inside your blob storage location, this trigger get automatically started. Interestingly, this particular pipeline section that also help you to do the debugging as well. So Scott Hanselman had done a great video on how you can debug these things, these Azure data pipelines. So that is a 30-minute video, and you can check that out as well to understand how you can debug a particular pipeline. So when we discussed about this concept of defining the pipeline and activity, we were understand that we have different kinds of activities like the copy activity, transform activity, and actually the finally storing that data in some location, that kind of activity. So you can connect these all together, group that in a logical group called the Azure pipelines, inside the pipelines, Data Factory pipelines in particular, because there is a pipeline inside Azure DevOps as well. So we don't need to confuse that with the Azure pipelines. So particularly Azure data pipelines, and that is what we are here focusing on. So if you want to understand about how a particular activity working on, you can set a breakpoint and you can run that as run and identify that as well. So for the debugging scenarios, it is advisable to use a smaller set of data. Otherwise, it will going to consume your actual data pipeline cost, as well as it will take a lot of time. And Microsoft has created this Azure Data Factory with the understanding that developers will be going to use this in different environments. So they have added the ARM template support, so that you can create an ARM template on the fly. So once you define all these things, different data sets, different pipelines, once you validate all these things and find out that everything is working properly, then you can entirely generate an ARM template for the entire Azure Data Factory. So everything will be inside that ARM template. So with that particular ARM template, you can easily create another environment rapidly. This is good for automation purpose. So if you are confident that your data factory and the pipelines are working as expected, then you can simply click on generate the ARM template. It will create two files. One is the main file, which is the ARM template, and one is the actual parameter file where you can customize your environment according to the different set of environments that you want in your actual project. You may have a dev environment there, you may have a QA or a production environment there, and you can have these concepts of parameters and variables, so that offers the flexibility like create once and customize as needed. So different set of variables are also provided, like the system variables, user defined variables. So it greatly enhances these things. Now we can look into another important concept. So far we have understood the concept of data factory. What we have understood what is data factory. We also understood about the different activities. That is what the actual task is all about. And then we understand about the linked sets, which are kind of a connection sets, which are used for linked services, which are usually the connection strings, which are used for connecting to different sources. We also understand different activities that actually perform these things, and we understand the concept of pipelines where we group all these things in place. So inside the pipeline, one thing we need to do is the data transformation. We just covered about data transformation, but we don't go on into much depth about how we actually transform the data. So transformation you can do either using some kind of mechanisms like external compute mechanism like HD Insight or SSIS package or something, and you can actually transform the data. Different things are there. But in addition to that, you can also have a native transformation which is called the data flow. So that is an addition to Azure Data Factory that Microsoft has added from 2019. So data flow can be found from inside the activity. So it is considered another kind of activity, just like the copy activity which we discussed. So two types of data flow are there. The mapping data flow and the wrangling data flow. Ideally, in majority of cases, you will be choosing a data flow. The only limitation of data flow is that your data set must be within the Azure, and this is a highly scalable activity as well. So it's definitely worth checking out. So with this data flow native in place, you can connect your data factory to different Azure data sources like the blob storage or Azure SQL or somewhere, whatever you want as in your application. So actual transformation is doing within this case. But the limitation is that the data sets must be in Azure. So in case if you want to connect to something else, you may need to choose something other data flow mechanisms like the external compute or the SSIS. I think we have covered almost all the important thing. So these are some of the key elements of the Azure Data Factory. Pipelines, the activities, then the triggers. Triggers define when that pipeline should be run. This triggers has a way of triggering immediately, and that is what we are usually use for debugging our particular pipeline, whether it is working correctly or not. Then we also understood the concept of data set, which is the actual data, and the concept of linked services, and you can relate linked services to that of connection strings, by which the Azure Data Factory knows where to pull the data from and where to store the data. So all that is achieved through this linked services concept. And in addition to that, we also looked into one major recent addition to data flow mechanism. It's called the data flow, which is used for transformation, and it is highly scalable, and it is a native transformation mechanism in place. In addition to that, you can have different other transformation mechanisms like HD Insights or SSIS jobs as well. So these are different things which you can understand. I barely covering a rough overview of all the different things which you can do in Azure Data Factory to get you a concept or understanding about how Azure Factory, its key components are all about. Certainly, I am not going into too much detail about all these things. You can definitely understand that from the Azure documentation or some kind of tutorials that are available in YouTube. So Scott Hanselman had done a great set of tutorials, and you can find out that as well. In addition to that, you can also check out some other articles or video blogs as well, which can help you in understanding these concepts. The biggest interesting thing that you can identify from this Azure Data Factory is that by means of Azure Data Factory, Microsoft has provided everything that is required for doing this kind of ETL or ELT scenarios. Certainly in ELT scenarios, you may ELT and ETL scenarios as well, you may need some other services help as well. Like once you don't think into the assumption that if you have a data factory in place, you can have everything including the storage and everything, or the different kinds of processing. You may not have that flexibility. You need to store the actual data in some mechanisms like Azure Blob Storage or Warehouse. So that is external to this Azure Data Factory. This Azure Data Factory is just an intermediate integration engine, which you can call, and it can help you to do all these integration related things. It can connect to the different sources. It can pull the data, do the transformation, and finally you can have the data in some external entities like even within Azure, like Azure Blob Storage or Data Warehouse. And you can automate this Azure Data Factory as well. You can easily connect that through the ARM template, and you can easily spin up the entire Azure Data Factory and its associated pipelines and different sets of activities. That means if you properly define a Azure Data Factory, then everything is in place. And one important concept that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the session is when you create Azure Data Factory, always choose the V2 one. So there are two versions that you can provision the Azure Data Factory, that is the V1 and V2. V2 is a much older one, which is based on JSON based configurations, and V2 is the latest addition, which they enabled for every person, like the business intelligent persons and everyone who are familiar with the concept of graphical user interface. They can easily create these different pipelines with less code. They can simply add the pipelines. They can simply connect to these different data sources and easily set a pipeline in place without having that much familiarity on code. But if you want to automate these things, this Azure Data Factory portal will automatically generate the ARM template and its associated associated parameter file as well. But a bit of coding is there. Not coding, it's kind of an integration is required for integrating this into Azure DevOps. So that also you can do that from inside the Azure Data Factory dashboard, where you can connect your Azure Data Factory pipeline or Azure Data Factory in total to a GitHub repo, which can be inside the Azure DevOps, so that you can have your full Azure Data Factory in a YAML file. And once you make some changes in the YAML file, you can make that reflection in the Azure Data Factory environment as well. So these are all what we plan to cover here. And finally, I will briefly touch on the concept of monitoring on Azure ADF, Azure Data Factory as well. Monitoring is also important because once you define a pipeline, it will be mostly for periodic running of tasks, and that is what the aim of Azure Data Factory is all about. It is mainly for periodically collecting data, transforming it, and to reach it and to store that insights into some form like Azure Data Warehouse or blob storage. It can have other connectors as well. I just explaining an example where we can store the data in some form of store. So in addition to that, we need some monitoring as well in place, so that if some pipelines or some actions or some activities fails, we need to identify that as early as possible. So for that purpose, a monitoring is also provided on the Azure Data Factory from within the dashboard as well, so that you can get an overview of what is happening, both from a resource level or from an element level. And you can set the alerts and action groups so that if some activity fails, you will get triggers. And if you have different data factories in place, so your single Azure account can have multiple data factories, and if you have a lot of data factories in place, and if you want to view a quick analytics of all the different data factories that belongs to your Azure account or subscription, then you can check out the Azure Data Analytics, which is a kind of a marketplace service which is currently in preview when I checked, and you can have that as well. So natively some kind of monitoring mechanisms are there, and you can check that. And if you want to view multiple data factory accounts dashboards and its analytics, then you can have this ADF analytics, Azure Data Factory analytics, which is available in the marketplace and which is currently in preview. So using that, you can have a quick view of different data factories that belongs to your account. And I haven't used that in particular but I have seen that in marketplaces, and many blogs and many videos are already mentioning about maybe in the near future that will be released, and a stable version will be released, and then you can have it. Nowadays also you can have it. So it's worth checking that out as well. So with that, we can wind up this session. I hope this session give you a good understanding about an overview. I'm not saying we covered everything that are related to Azure Data Factory. We just covered an overview, and hope this session will help you to quickly understand these concepts in place, especially for a new person. And once this is understand, they can check out other resources out as well. So once again, thank you for listening this podcast. You may subscribe my YouTube channel for more videos, or you can check out my YouTube channel so that you can understand different other cloud platform related topics. Coming September 1st, 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, I will be having a live session on Azure Data Factory, which is nearly 2 hours, which covers the entire Azure Data Factory's overview. We are not going too much deep into all these things, but to get quick started, I will be having a live streaming demo and a YouTube session as well. That is what I am planning. So you can have that. And in case if you miss that, you can always have that from my YouTube channel. The recording will be available on the YouTube channel as well. It will be worth checking some of the case studies as well by the different organizations that already use this Azure Data Factory. That is available in the customer stories section of Azure Data Factory. I could see some of the organizations are actually using it. Many were actually using it, but Microsoft has already provided some of the case studies or customer stories there, so you can check it out as well. So you can get a familiarity of all these things. Then in addition to this, when you work out on the Azure Data Factory and when you create a new pipeline, Microsoft already provided some of the quick starts from within that Azure Data Factory dashboard itself, so that you can easily start understanding about the different concepts. So the good thing is, once you start creating an Azure Data Factory, then you can easily learn that, because everything is there within that portal itself. It's by nature, it's kind of a drag and drop mechanism. And if you understand some of the concepts like these pipelines, activities, linked sets, then the triggers, then you can easily work from that graphical interface in place. And you can also automate that as well using the ARM template. So I think we can wind up the session. Thank you for listening this podcast. Have a great